Welcome, folks. I'm Jaby Koay, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
What's up?
This is our honest thoughts and feelings about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This is going to be completely non-spoiler, very, very ambiguous in terms of plot details and all that stuff because we're not really allowed to tell you anything other than how we feel about the movie. Right off the bat, I just want to say the movie was a lot of fun, definitely worth watching, definitely worth seeing in the theaters if you can do it that way rather than streaming. I would say that's the best way to experience this film, especially with like an audience and all that stuff. There was literally one point where I found myself like applauding in the middle of the movie, and I won't say what that was about, but I just want to let you know that I did that.
Yeah, there were definitely, I feel like there were more than one moment where that happened. I was so happy with this film. I had a great time. I loved the story as well. I thought it was really moving. I connected with it, and the action, oh my God.
Yeah, the action was definitely on point there. It's not without its flaws. Obviously, there are things to nitpick at. For me, more than ACHARA, I would say. I'll try to be very, very nuanced and ambiguous as much as I can in this video about it because I don't want to take away your experience at all. I just want to help you guys with what to expect in the movie so that you have the right amount of excitement going into it. My brother helped me with that, and actually it was the best thing he could have done for me to help me have a better experience of the movie overall. Before we go any further, one thing I want to say is a shout out to Brad Allen, who passed away recently. He was the second unit director and stunt coordinator on this film. He was an extremely talented guy. I got to meet him once at Gymnastics Olympica a long time ago. He was super nice to me, and I was fanboying hard because I had watched him growing up in stuff like Who Am I, Mr. Nice Guy, and Gorgeous. I didn't like intensely follow his career, but I saw him a lot in Jackie Chan stuff, and I have stunt friends, people in the stunt community who were very, very close to him as well. And so, yeah, it was sad to hear about that, especially at such a young age. But he did a fantastic job in this film, to say the least.
Stellar work.
It's very, very interesting because this is a character we are unfamiliar with as far as the whole film franchise goes, right? It had a lot of work to do in its revealing of who this guy is, like his backstory and whatnot, catching us up to speed of where he came from, what he's trying to do, how he fits into everything and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to do there. So what you naturally get as a result of that is a lot of exposition in the movie. I thought it was going to be worse, but it actually was okay. It was still there. It was still a bit heavy for me, but I think overall the experience was quite positive in the end.
Yeah, and I think what it has going for it is that there are some really interesting characters, and like you said, some interesting world building as well. You've got this fantasy element that they're sharing with us, which is so cool. And to top that all off, you've also got all of that really fun, just like kinetic martial arts and action scenes as well.
Yeah,
so
I would say that there was definitely some awesome, worthwhile fight scenes in there. Like that it made me really happy because it wasn't just the choreography. It wasn't just being able to see Simu Liu do this stuff himself most of the time. I imagine he had stunt guys from time to time, but I couldn't tell.
But he is, like in his own right, he is a talented martial artist and stunt guy.
Yeah, very. Like, I was very impressed with everything he was doing in this movie. But it wasn't just the choreography and all that stuff, but it was also the way it was shot. You were able to appreciate what was happening in a way that you don't get to in most films these days whenever they show fight scenes. Case in point, we watched G.I. Joe's Snake Eyes not that long ago. You couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
You couldn't see anything at all the entire movie. Whereas here, you can see everything happening. There isn't a single moment where you're like, oh wait, what's the geography of the sequence? It's like, it helps you to see what's happening and still feel the visceral impact of the moves and whatnot. Like the fights feel at times like they're very intense.
And very creative
and very
as well.
Creative.
Yeah.
Very creative. They're very creative in the choreography, very creative in how it's shot. There are some moments where it felt like there was stalling, and I talk about that in the fight scene breakdown I did not that long ago on this channel. There were some moments that just didn't feel like they had the momentum it needed, but that wasn't always the case throughout the movie. Thankfully, it was limited to just a few areas, and most of the time you get strong, visceral fight scenes. I know that this is weird, but I just want to like say that Awkwafina was my favorite person in this movie. She just stood out as the shining star for me, which is both a good thing and a bad thing, and I can't really get into why. She for me was like the heart of this movie, and I would go back to watch it again just for her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Awkwafina fan. That is no secret, and as usual, she killed it in this. Yeah. But I will say that I thought that the entire cast was really strong, and another huge standout for me was actually Tony Leung. I thought he did amazing in this role.
Yeah, I thought Tony Leung did a great job. I mean, he was It's so hard to talk about this without giving anything away. He did a great job. Let's leave it at that. For me, it was great to see Michelle Yeoh again because I grew up loving her. And for those of you that don't know, the name Jaby is actually an acronym for 4 names. The Y being for Michelle Yeoh. She's dope. And especially still at her age, the way she's able to move is amazing.
Yeah, so graceful. In fact, like a lot of the movement here. I mean, I'm not a martial artist by any stretch of the imagination, but I did grow up watching a lot of Chinese martial arts type movies, and I've always been fascinated by just the beauty and the grace in a lot of the forms, and that was definitely coming through. Like it felt like such a celebration of the culture.
Oftentimes what you end up missing out on in fight scenes is a sense of story. There's no real direction in fight scenes today. It's just a lot of clash, and then it's over. And so what you got here is a very traditional style of choreography that you typically get in like Hong Kong cinema, where there's actually like a story within the fight that you can follow. Even someone with the most limited understanding of martial arts and fight scenes and stuff like that, you can still see that there's a story progression within the fight. And I think that because it's Marvel, because it's meant to appeal to a wider audience, they have to really make that painfully clear, like what's happening in the fight. Like, okay, this is the progression of the fight, so people aren't just like bored as heck if they're not into fight scenes.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like an homage to Crouching Tiger in a way, or that style of Chinese operatic martial arts cinema.
Yeah, all of the characters have wants, they have desires, and they're like very hardcore going towards them, which is what you do in every single scene as an actor, and you should do when you're doing a fight scene. Right.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, which is like within the fight, there's like objectives, and that's important.
Yeah.
Right? There's like objectives, and there's like things that these characters are trying to do when they are clashing with each other, and that's clear through the fight, and then the progression of the fight has a story within itself. And I just loved all that, and I was very, very happy to finally see that again in American cinema. It was just wonderfully, tastefully done.
And talking about story, when we first saw the trailer for this, I was really hooked on that whole family aspect of the story and what was coming through in the trailer. And I have to say, I wasn't disappointed.
Okay.
That was something that was really strong. And so, like I said at the top of this kind of, I don't know what this is, like a review-ish video, but it did kind of really hook me in with the emotions, and it felt super relatable. And so I really, really like that. So it's not just like an action movie. It still kind of has that Marvel thing where it kind of tugs at your heartstrings as well. Okay. At least for me.
Yeah. I think that my biggest complaint for the film is that because it had so much explaining to do in order to catch you up and get this integrated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it got kind of bogged down with a lot of the expository elements, with a lot of we got to catch up the audience on these things. And I like the flashbacks a lot, but it got to a point where the flashbacks mattered more to me than the main story that was happening, like the present day stuff.
Sure.
And so that was a little bit weird for me. It's just like the middle especially got kind of weighed down. I'm saying that so that you guys can sort of expect that, so you're not like, what's going on? Why is the momentum slowing down? It's like, you know already going in, that middle part is catching you up so that you're not lost, and it makes sense for how this is going to fit in with everything else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, and I'm curious and excited to see where this goes next in future movies, or if Shang-Chi is going to be integrated into, other characters' tentpole movies.
I mean, the worst that comes of this movie is that I definitely want to see Shang-Chi again. I mean, not just this film, but like its sequels and how he is integrated into Marvel in general. Like, I really, really am excited to see where this goes.
Yeah.
So you guys, that wraps up our honest thoughts and feelings about the movie. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I am excited for all of you guys to watch it. Come back and let us know what you feel about the movie, and excited to watch it again. I'm Jaby Koay. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.